Hey beautiful selfish babe, it is your girl OlanikeeOsi here, bringing you another Selfish Babe Selfish Talk Podcast. And in today's episode, I am talking about coming out the spiritual closet. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe at OlanikeeOsi, which is OlanikeeOsi. That is where I drop these podcasts first. So if you're like, dang Vanessa, dang Olanike, where are the podcasts? Go to YouTube because they drop there first, and then they drop on all streaming services for your listening pleasures. Let's get into it.
All the rainbows that I've seen, I wish on all the people who...
Alright, hey beautiful selfish babe. So in today's episode, I'm talking about coming out of the spiritual closet. I thought that this was an important episode to do because I came out the spiritual closet, and I actually don't think that a lot of other people are actually comfortable coming out the spiritual closet, or they have never heard of the concept. So if we were talking about somebody coming out the closet, usually they're saying that person is either gay or that person is a lesbian or homosexual in some way, whichever term people would like to use, right? And so I think that with spirituality, that you can actually do the same thing too. I think that there's a whole process of coming out to your family and friends with what you actually practice. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because, if you guys already know, I do not conform to Christianity. Like, I am not a Christian. I kind of grew up that way or was meant to conform in that way, but that's just not something or religion that resonated with me. I'm not religious either. I like to say that I'm more spiritual. And the reason I say that is because I don't necessarily believe that I need to be in somebody's church or somebody's group to experience God, to experience the Creator, to experience my ancestors. It's not just in a building that somebody made, right? And I think that whomever it is that needs to go to church or those buildings in order to say that that is their spirituality or that is their religion, kudos to you. I'm here for the selfish babe that may be feeling like, you know, I don't think this Christian thing really suits me. I don't think that this religion really suits me. But what is it? You know, how can I actually be myself and be my full spiritual self among my family members as well as among my friends? And so that's why I'm making this episode. And so first, I'm gonna talk about what is coming out the spiritual closet. So coming out the spiritual closet is basically being honest about your spiritual practices or your own personal spiritual beliefs to family and friends and not hiding it. And so if you're out at the family gathering or, you know, during a family gathering, people know that is what you practice. It is not something that you're hiding. You're not pretending to be what you're not. And when we talk about being a selfish babe, it is about selfishly and authentically loving yourself. And in order to do that, you have to be yourself, no matter what, no matter whom you're around. And so for me, when somebody is spiritually coming out of the closet, they are being honest about their spiritual beliefs and they are being authentic about whatever that may be. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of my personal background and how I have come out of the spiritual closet to my family and to my friends. And I'm affirming that this can help you come out of your spiritual closet. So like I mentioned, I grew up in a Christian home, but it was not like mandatory for us to go to church. Like, my mom did not say, hey, every Saturday or Sunday we are going to church. Like, that's the thing. That was not the thing. I remember I was in Jamaica for a little bit. If y'all peep my Jamaican flag back there, woo woo. If you're a Jamaican selfish babe, woo woo. I'll go to Jamaica to go visit my grandma and my aunt when I was a kid and when I was a baby. And I remember, you know, being like 5 or 4, and I remember being in a hot ass church in Jamaica with the damn ceiling fan. There was no AC. And I remember I would fall asleep on my grandmother's lap. Like, that's like the memories of like my grandma I remember. We would go to church because she was a church woman. Okay, she enjoyed going to church, and I would fall asleep in her lap. And I think I even like played with some of the kids. Like, we had like a Sunday school for kids. I remember a little bit of that. And that was it, really. And then whenever I would go back to the States to be with my mom, I wasn't going to church every Sunday. That just wasn't the thing. But my mom did have a Bible, and I think that she wanted us to be Christian. I think that was the idea, but I don't really believe it was super pushed to my knowledge, it wasn't super pushed. And then I also had one of my best friends, she grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist home as well. And I'm mentioning that because at some point I would go to church with my friend in her Seventh-day Adventist church. And so for a while, I would go to her church and I would say, oh, okay, you know, try to see if this is for me. But it just never really resonated with me. Some of my things was like, for example, when people talk about God, they will always talk about God as if God is a he. And it was always like he, him, the father, that. And for me, I couldn't get it in my brain as to why it was always like the male figure being worshipped. Like, where was the female in this? Where was the woman in this? How do we create? We create with a man and a woman. We create with the masculine and the feminine. Like, how does that work where we're just talking about God and Jesus, but there's no female in this story? And so for me, that was like one of my first issues with Christianity. I didn't really believe the story of Adam and Eve, and after Eve ate the apple and blah blah blah. Because then when I'm analyzing this as I'm older, it's like condemning the woman. That's what I'm getting, the story of condemning the woman. And so that, and then also being saved. What am I being saved from? Like, what am I being saved from? And I kind of felt like the concept of being saved puts people in a sense of shame. Like, Jesus died for your sins, and like even the sins that you haven't even done yet. And so it's almost like a sense of like, I owe this person, I owe Jesus because he did this for me, right? And also a sense of shame about what we may be doing. What are the sins, right? Some people can be saying, oh, having sex before marriage is a sin. And so if I were to have sex before marriage, then I would be ashamed because I wasn't supposed to do that. I was supposed to wait for my husband, and I was supposed to only have sex with my husband. And then if I had sex with my husband and I didn't like it, I was supposed to stay with my husband for, 10 to 20 years or for the rest of my life, where I don't agree with that. My concept was like, I'm not waiting to marriage to have sex. That's another thing. I did not wait for marriage to have sex. I began having sex at 14. And from my perspective, it was more so I wanted to try it out. I wanted to see what it was about. And then also, for me, if people are going to get married and spend the rest of their lives together, then why would I not know how you are sexually? Why would I not know how you are living with you, right? So for me, I believe in people living together before they get married. For me, I don't think that people should get married and then live together, because you don't really know how living with that person may be. And so these are just all the things that I just couldn't personally digest and put into my lifestyle when it personally came to Christianity, because that is the religion that I knew. And then I wasn't really one to read the Bible either. So these are all these things. So at some points in my life, growing up in my teenage years, I was like, well, I don't know if Christianity is for me, and is there a God? At one point I said I was agnostic. If I can define what that is right now, I don't have it, but Google agnostic. At one point, that's what I was. And then after that, I started going to church with my friend, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this Christianity thing is for me. But then even when I went to college and stuff, I still went to church with one of my friends. I really enjoyed the praise and worship section of church. I'm gonna let you know that. The gospel section, the praise and worship section of church, that always got me, because for me, music makes a connection. Music makes a feeling, like you can connect. So sometimes I would be singing, there's this song called Grateful by Hezekiah Walker. I would sing that song and I would be in tears because of the connection, because I felt so damn grateful. I felt so much gratitude for my life. And so those are some aspects I'm like, oh, well, the gospel is really good. Like, maybe I am Christian. But I'm gonna be real, it just really didn't connect with me at all. At all. There's just too many things wrong with Christianity for me to connect and for me to apply it to my life. Now, if you are a selfish babe where Christianity is for you, then that is your choice. That is good. But I also really want selfish babes to be honest and open to new ideas and new concepts about religion as well as about spirituality. I do not want your religion to have to box you into a box of who you should be. I said who you should be. You should be who you want to be. You shouldn't be conforming to a box that tells you this is how you should be. That's not what I want for selfish babes. What I want for selfish babes is for them to be who they want to be. And so if a book is telling me that a woman and a woman can't be together, or that a man and a man can't be together, or that that's a sin, then that's not going to work for me. As you guys know, I do have a girlfriend. And so for me, and you know, I identify as bisexual or queer. So my thing is like, I don't really want to relate to a religion that says that, because that doesn't make any sense to me. Now, there are a lot of people in the queer community that are Christian, and I think that's okay as well. But I'm just listing out, again, some reasons as to why this religion really is not for me. And so at one point, fast forwarding, at one point, I was at FAMU, and I was in their Masters of Community Psychology program. And in there, they have a Black psychology class, which I thought was so amazing. If you do not know about Black psychology, look it up. Even if you are a person that is not African American or of African descent, I highly suggest looking into Black psychology, especially if you're a psychology major, because it's like shit starts to make sense. In that program, I learned more about Black people than I've ever learned before. I've learned my history. I've learned some spirituality, some spiritual practices that my ancestors did, and that began to make sense to me. So for example, I would learn about something called Santeria. I would learn about something called Voodoo from Haiti. I would learn about something called Ifa from Nigeria, Yoruba tribe. I would learn about these African spiritual practices, or even Hoodoo, right? I would hear about these things, and I'm like, oh wow, these things have been condemned. These things have been demonized. It's like if people see you honoring your ancestors, pouring a glass of water to the tree, you know, talking to my grandma who may not be here anymore, but I'm still talking to her. In Christianity, a lot of people would be like, oh, that's the devil. Oh, that's evil. Don't mess with dead people. And my perspective is, don't mess with dead people. What do you mean? This was my grandma. She was a person of good character. Why would I not honor her? Why would I not still talk to her? Why would I not maybe give her one of her favorite drinks on an altar? Why would I not burn up an incense for her? Why would I not ask her for things and that I want here in this physical reality from the spiritual world? Why would I not have her help me get the things that I want here in this physical world? Because that's evil. And I don't believe that's evil. For me, I really believe that honoring our ancestors is very, very natural. It makes sense. They came before you, you honor them. It makes complete sense to me. But that's what resonated with me. I began to learn that, you know, when it came into the slave trade in history, that a lot of the spiritual practices that African people did were covered under Christianity. And so if we're talking about Catholicism, a lot of people that practice Santeria, they were covering the fact that they were practicing Santeria under Catholicism. And if you look up the history, you'll see the similarities. And so for me, when I began to learn about these different African and spiritual practices, and even if you're not a person of African descent, just spiritual practices, there's so many other spiritual practices that you can do that is not related to religion. I began to learn about this stuff. It made sense to me. So for me, when I talk about God, when I talk about the creator, and I talk about my ancestors, or I talk about the universe, I'm not just talking about God as this man in the sky, because that's not how I view God. I can look at this tree outside of my window, and I could be, that's motherfucking God. I could be like, that's the universe. That's the creator. I prefer creator because for me, it's a unisex thing. Man, woman, whatever. Okay? That is God. That's the creator. The goddess. Earth. Whatever you believe in. If you just believe in yourself, that's cool too, because you're made up of all of that. And so for me, when I look out at nature, that's my church. You know, in a spiritual practice called Ifa, which I am into, you know, we talk about some things called, these deities called the Orisha. And the Orisha are different aspects of God, different aspects of the creator. So if I wanted more of a warrior, more of a person that more of a creator that cuts down the obstacles out of my way. Hey, creator, I want to get these obstacles out of my way. Then I'm talking about Ogun. And if I go out to the railroad tracks where Ogun is said to be, that is Ogun. That is my church. That is the God, the creator that I'm worshiping at that moment. And so for me, When I began to learn about the Orisha and Ancestor Veneration, that made sense to me. When I began to learn that, we have spiritual gifts as people, whether it be that, we can get answers in our dreams, whether it be that maybe one of your ancestors is communicating to you in your dreams, whether it be that maybe you had a dream about the future, whether it be that you can see energy, because there's some of y'all out there that can see energy. There are so many selfish babes, I bet, at this moment that are so fucking psychic, that are so fucking talented right now spiritually, that are condemning that are putting that down, or that may be in families that condemn your gifts. And one day I was at this conference, it was a spiritual conference, and I was giving a talk about coming out of the spiritual closets and how it's so important for us, especially as women, to come out of the spiritual closet. Because if you're coming out of the spiritual closet, you're able to honor your gifts. You're able to tap more into your spiritual gifts and saying, oh no, let me not, mess with that. That's the devil. Let me not mess with that, and not tap into really who you are. For me, if your religion stops you from being who you really are, then why do you do it, right? And some people is like, well, I need to go to church because I need to pray to God, or I need to go to church because I feel this way, I feel good. And I think that's cool. If church is your thing because you feel good, because you're reminded about God and faith and your spirituality, I think that's good too. But I'm saying be open to sitting in a park and meditating and understanding that God and the Creator is all around there. Be open to maybe talking to your ancestors. And I like to reference this. A lot of old Southern Baptist people used to still have ancestor altars while they practiced Christianity. And the only reason I'm saying this is because if you are a selfish babe out there that's like, well, I still want to hold on to Christianity, but I do want to honor my ancestors, is that the devil? No, it does not have to be. Your spirituality is all about intention. It's about what you make it. So if you're a selfish babe that's like, I want to do both, then do both. For me, when I live my life to the fullest, when I live my life happily and joyfully and doing what the fuck that I want to do because I want to do it, I know that I'm honoring my ancestors, especially if I know I'm doing it with good character and with great intention, because I am doing some things that my ancestors never got to do. And that is important for me. It's important for me to live a whole, full, amazing life, because some of my ancestors didn't get to do that. And some of your ancestors didn't get to do that. So I want to make sure that you are selfishly and authentically loving yourself, because it's important. And so if you're in the spiritual closet, it's time for you to come out. Now let me get back to the point of this video, which is coming out, right? Coming out of the spiritual closet. Well, how the fuck do you do that, Vanessa? How the fuck do you do that? And so I'm going to give you an example. So one day, it was probably when I was about 22, I believe. I'm 27 now at this moment. We are in July 2019. And I think I was in South Florida and I was going to go eat dinner with my mom. And so at one point we were talking over dinner, and I think I just told her that I wasn't a Christian and that I didn't really resonate with Christianity. And I told her that I get readings done. And what a reading is maybe somebody that's gifted spiritually that can tap into your energy, can tell you more about yourself, what your gifts are, some of what your purposes are here in this realm. And so I told my mom that that's what I was doing. And she was like, well, be careful with that, And I think that was really it. It wasn't something that she was like proud of, or like super, like she wasn't like this, like hexing me. That wasn't her reaction, but she wasn't jumping for joy either. And so for me, the reason why I even told my mom, again, is because whether or not she accepts what I do, it's not about that. It was really about me. It was really about me feeling comfortable being around her, and also just being me, being myself. So if I'm like, hey, I may not be coming to this because of this, then she understands, because she knows that that may not be my thing because I'm not Christian. Or like if there's ever a thing about God or a Bible reference, she's not surprised that I'm not really into it, because again, I've already told her what I'm about. And so for me, the only way that you can come out the spiritual closet is to motherfucking do it. It's to motherfucking say it to whoever the hell you need to say it to. Some of y'all probably grew up in really strict households, or may currently be in really strict households. If you're still like living with your parents, then maybe wait till you're 18. I totally get that. But if you're not living with your parents anymore and you're on your own, I don't think you should be lying. I don't think that you should be lying. And some people are like, well, I'm not really lying. I'm just not really telling them. And I think that's cool. If that's your prerogative, if you don't want to tell your parents or whatever, because you don't want to, then do you. But I think that there's something about you telling them that will unlock something within you that will allow you to move more authentically in this world. And the reason I say this is because I believe, like, when we were younger, I think that we hid a lot from our parents, at least for me. Like, we hid a lot from our parents, or maybe our parents didn't talk to us much, and so they didn't really get to know who we are. And so for me, in this point in my life, I want my mom to know who I am. And so I just tell her certain things about myself, so it's not a surprise. Like, if my girlfriend's over, or maybe I'm on a trip with my girlfriend, I could be like, oh, I'm with so-and-so, and she knows that's my girlfriend, not just my friend, right? Coming out the closet. So spiritually coming out the closet, I think is just important to say it, so then they don't have this, like, idea of you in their head. And I think parents will always have an idea of you within their head, and that's because you never corrected them. You never said anything to them about yourself. And so you're like, oh, well, they don't really need to know. Cool. But they're going to have this specific idea of who you are in their head. And if this is my baby girl and she's a Christian, God-fearing woman, then that's who you have portrayed yourself to be, or that's who they believe, but you never really said anything different. For me, I like to set the record straight. That's just, how I want to live my life. And so, Selfish Babe, if you are a woman out there that's like, I want to come out the spiritual closet, how to do it, you just do it. You have dinner with whoever it is that you want, and you say it. If it's on the phone to one of your friends that maybe you have a lot of friends that are so Christian, you're not, and you just want to say, hey guys, this doesn't resonate with me, I'm actually looking into these things. Do it, but don't expect people to be like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Or don't be like, oh my God, I accept you, right? You do want people to, like, still, you want to fuck with them still, right? But if they start pouring it down, like, and putting it down, like, oh, don't mess with that, that's the devil. Don't do this, that's the devil. Then that feels bad. And you may want to get a new tribe of people that you can actually connect with spiritually, because you don't always want to feel like you're alone. You don't always want to feel like, dang, I want to explore this part of myself, but anytime I talk to my friends, they just putting it down, right? Because I had a friend at one point where I was going to yoga, and I had invited her to yoga, and she was like, no, that's the devil, like, that's worshiping the sun. Because from her perspective of Seventh-day Adventists, that's what that was. That's not my perspective. I love yoga. I think yoga is very wonderful, and it's a wonderful way to connect with the Creator and God. But again, another perspective. So what I want is just for you to think for yourself. I want you to do some research. Google different spiritual practices, different African spiritual practices, if that's what you're looking for. But I don't want you just to keep very close-minded, because this is what you grew up with. I think that sometimes with religion, this is what I grew up with it. I grew up with this, and that's that. Like, your mind is very closed off to other things. So open your mind to other things and see if there's other things that you want to explore. And if it's going back to Christianity and doing it your way, then do it your way. I don't want you to be boxed in. But anyways, thank you for listening. This is the end of my coming out the spiritual closet. I'm affirming that this has helped you in some way. And I'm affirming that I could bring more things to you guys about spirituality, because for me, spirituality is so important, especially when it's being a selfish babe, because a lot of it has to do with you going inside and honoring your own fucking power and knowing that God and the Creator, or the Goddess, is in you, right? You are God, you are the Creator, you are the Goddess. And some people may be like, oh my God, what? I'm God. You are. But again, it's what I subscribe to. And that may be hard for some of y'all to digest, because you're like, no, God is outside of me, God is in the sky. That's who controls my life, right? And that may be your perspective. It's not my perspective, though. And I just definitely want to shed light to some selfish babes out there who may be struggling with coming out the spiritual closet, or who have never heard of coming out the spiritual closet, but now you know. So thank you, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I love you guys. Mwah.